Gary Peterson, International Vice President, TW. I'm responding to an AMFA organizer video, and let me start by saying that I was elected to my position under the Constitution at the TW International Convention by the delegates that were elected by the membership. So for somebody to say that we're not elected, wrong answer. Constitution says how that works. If you want to read up on that, that's fine. If not, I can assure you I was elected by the delegates you elected. And people ran against me, and in that particular case, in that election, they didn't win. Anybody can run in the next Constitutional Convention against me, or anybody else for that matter, and the election is done live. I do believe it's videotaped for the argument of if there was ever a challenge to it, and it was actually done by a division of the House physical bodies standing on one side or the other side as the election took place. So for somebody to say I'm not elected, I take exception to that. I've always been elected to my position, and I'm proud of that fact. As far as the raid, let's go back to that for a second. I just want to make it clear that the National Director, Brett of AMFA, shook my hand and asked for TW to support the Southwest Mechanics, and asked me if I would get the International to give support to the Southwest Mechanics, which ultimately we did. But as he was shaking my hand, we had a conversation about the one commitment that I needed from him to take back to TW, and that was that AMFA would not raid the organization, and we would work as a coalition. The IBT had reps there at the same time. It was done in Atlanta, and unfortunately, if Brett wants to deny that, I think there's several other people that'll stand on my side of the fence and say that that's exactly what Brett agreed to. Not sure what he told his board, but what he told me, and when a man shakes my hand, I take it for what it's worth, and he has stabbed me in the back, so that's why I'm doing this video, because I want to make it clear that my convictions are what they are, and when somebody gives me the word, I expect it. So beyond that, let's just go through the highlights of the video. I don't need to dwell on that. I have another video I'll do, and I'll get into that more at that time. The other thing that was mentioned in the video is, people were officers, and yeah, they were, and they quit, and it's hard. It's hard doing this job. It's hard fighting against the company and come into solutions. That's what representation is. It's not an easy job, and for every rep that's out there that continues to do it, be proud of that fact. It's not an easy job, and some days it's a thankless job. So for that part, I'll go and leave that there. Let's talk about brake riding for a minute. That was another thing mentioned in the video, that we gave up brake riding. We're fighting over the brake riding. I'm not going to dispute that, and we may wind up in an arbitration over it, and it'll get settled out there, or maybe we won't, and we'll settle it amicably with the company. I don't know the answer to that as I'm shooting this video, but what I can tell you is where the concept of transitioning brake riding from mechanics over to fleet service in that full capacity actually stemmed from an arbitration case that AMFA lost over at Southwest, and they can't dispute that. That's just fact. And Landon Nitschke over at Southwest was good friends with Paul Roble. They both came out of the Northwest days. They were cut from the same cloth, so to speak, at Northwest. And soon after AMFA lost that case, that's when the dialogue started from Paul Roble. Our fleet service guy stood behind us 100% of the way, and the language in the contract now gives us language to fight with and fight for. And again, if the company wants to circumvent that, unfortunately under the Railway Labor Act, we have to go through a grievance procedure. It's not as simple as I'd like it to be, but that is the process. So if that's where we land, that's where we land. So I just want to make that clear, that the reason we're in a brake riding issue today comes about because of an arbitration loss by AMFA over at Southwest. And that case is available. I'm sure that the locals have it. If not, they can reach out to me and I'll get them a copy of it, and they can surely supply it to you. The other issue that was talked about in there is, I'm just trying to think of everything. The election, again, 591 fought against it. The NMB made the determination. It's not the TW or the IAM that somehow made that determination. That's probably something better served by the folks who are rating us right now to define how come the NMB made that determination. I honestly don't know enough about it. I do know we challenged it as a local, and we got the response that the NMB would make that determination. But in fairness to what was said, there was supposed to be an election. It didn't happen because the NMB made that determination, not the unions. I've moved past that because I have to. I mean, that's the determination, and we got a contract to fight over. We were in negotiations. We did that, and we've come out of that with what I would argue is the best contract amongst the industry. By far, with scope, the best contract in the industry. And again, just a quick note on that. There was mention about scope in the video and how AMFA's done a great job. I would like somebody to show me improvements AMFA's made in their scope over at Southwest, because I can't find any over the years. In fact, there really hasn't been any. They get 2.75 members by the book per aircraft. That's it. And really nothing else is really written in there. There's no guarantee of anything. I think the Alaska language is a little bit better. At least they have some guarantee. They got 6 stations guaranteed. We have 28. They don't really necessarily have a head count number. Both of them are very low in head count. In fact, just our base maintenance alone is arguably about uneven with Southwest, and probably 3 times the size of what they have over at Alaska in totality for mechanics. That doesn't even start to touch the line side of it, or facilities, or the rest of the group. So again, there's a lot of good story and rumor in the video. Unfortunately, just, take it for what it's worth. I'm not going to sit here and try and sugarcoat things. We are in a fight. In fact, we're in a really important fight, because the day that AMFA, if they were ever to win a representation election, day one, the real question is, who's representing you? The locals are gone. The leadership, so to speak, you have today is gone. The money in the locals stays in the locals. You start from zero under AMFA. And I would challenge anybody to ask those questions, because it's really important to know who's going to be representing you on day one. Is it going to be guys from Southwest that don't know our contract? I don't know. The organizers that I know of, that I've seen or heard, they really don't have very much experience in representing the contract, and most of them haven't ever represented the contract. A few of them have many, many years ago for short periods of time, so they're not familiar with the actual contract. But I'm not begrudging them. I'm just saying that it is a huge monumental task, and be very leery of the story over the facts of who is where and doing what today, because this isn't just scratching the name off the door and replacing it with an acronym. The door's gone, the building's gone, the money's gone. That stays with the institution. That's how that process works. And if you want to see how that worked out before, just talk to the guys at United who went to AMFA and ultimately wound up going to the IBT, about 5 years later. I think it was 5, maybe 6 years later, and how badly they were hurt because they left, I believe, IAM, and they found out the hard way that they were ill prepared to represent the contract. They really didn't know what was going on, and they suffered through that badly. And again, I'm just telling you, do your homework. Last but not least, I just want to make one mention of something, and that is, people want to talk and say, and I always want to remind people that it's easy to tell stories, it's easy to talk, so to speak, smack, but proving up and doing is where the real evidence is. And again, I would ask you to have the organizers from AMFA show you all the gains they made at Southwest in scope, all the gains they made throughout that contract after 6-7 years of negotiations. They just aren't there, and I hate to say that, but that contract's pretty much been dormant for the last 20 years. They've gotten money, I'll give them that, and they also used to make a lot more money than we did because they didn't have any base maintenance. That's still the same today. We have caught up to them through fighting for our membership, and I'm proud of that fact. You should be proud of that fact, because every one of the members is the reason we were able to achieve this contract.